In August 2016, an 8-year-old girl set foot in America for the first time. She was thrilled to explore the new country, experience its cultures, and live through all of these exciting things she's always heard about. When she first started 3rd grade, to her surprise, students were actually allowed to play in the playground. Back home, recess was so rare, she in fact thought she arrived on some special day. And just like this, after a number of cultural shocks, she finally began to adapt to the American culture. She finally began to feel at home. This was until her visa was about to expire, forcing her to leave the country and leave everything behind. This, unfortunately, is a reality that thousands of immigrants across America often face, as the immigration policies are often complicated and uncertain. Each year, there are a total of 65,000 H-1B visas filed for skilled workers, each of which being selected in a pool of hundreds of thousands of people waiting to start a new life in America. And just like them, after trying for years and years, my family and I were also able to come to America and start a new life for a better education, more job opportunities, and a better lifestyle. However, what we weren't aware of were the myths of this so-called American dream. The opportunities that thousands come in search of are often limited to only citizens or permanent residents. And as an immigrant teenager, the lack of this permanent residency has severely hindered several of my opportunities. Now, the pathway to permanent residency is definitely not straightforward. In fact, it's extremely lengthy and complicated at times. To simply even get this process started, you first have to apply for your PWD and your PERM application. After filing both of these, you would then have to file something called your I-140. When an immigrant arrives to America for the first time, he or she must immediately find an employer who's willing to bear these expenses and initiate this pathway to permanent residency, as they only have about 3 years to stay within this country. 6 in some instances if they're able to extend their visa. However, either ways, without having your green card process initiated, you would have no other choice but to return back to your home country. And now, even though getting this process could be possible, and in all positivity, let's say this immigrant does get his or her green card process initiated. Now here is where the main complex part comes in. The duration between filing your green card and actually receiving your green card. This duration is often extremely lengthy and unfair, as it varies country to country based off of their population. And I know this for a fact because I come from India, a country known for its food, music, culture, and definitely population. As per the Immigration Act of 1990, each country is allotted about 7% of the available employment-based and family-based green cards. This means that each country has a maximum of only 14,700 available employment-based green cards. So essentially, a country like Monaco, who has a population of about 35,000, has the same number of green cards allocated as another country like India, who has a population of 1.4 billion people. And because of this, countries with larger populations often experience severe backlogs within their immigration policies. To really put this into perspective, the current priority date for an Indian H-1B holder is 2012. This means that someone that filed their green card back in 2012 is just now receiving their green card in 2025. And this not just highlights the length, but also the complexities that come with this pathway to permanent residency. For instance, as an immigrant teenager, there are several things I'm hindered from, especially my educational opportunities. For instance, I'm not able to apply to certain summer programs because they require citizenship. I'm not able to participate in certain competitions because they require citizenship. I'm not able to even apply to specific financial aid programs because they require citizenship. And to top this off, H-1B holders are only allowed to work one job. And in most cases, their dependents, such as the spouse or the children, aren't allowed to work at all, allowing no external sources of income. This not only disrupts family lives, but also causes them to live with this constant fear without any certainty or stability, often extending beyond their daily lives and into their family connections. And this disruption to your family connections can be seen especially as legal immigrants aren't allowed to come in and out of the country because if they don't have their visa stamped, they simply would not be able to return to see their families back in their home country. And if this immigrant does choose to leave America, he or she simply would not be able to return. Unfortunately, this restriction becomes extremely heartbreaking in situations of personal loss and family emergencies. Recently, one of my family friends passed away, and her own son wasn't even able to attend his funeral simply because of his citizenship status. And just like him, there are thousands of people in this country that miss such significant events in their lives because of not having their visa stamped. And as you might have already guessed, this process to getting your visa stamped and renewed isn't a simple process either. So essentially, imagine contributing to your community, paying your taxes, buying a house, raising kids, and still having to live with this constant fear that everything you have built can be gone to waste. Life to these people is more of a balancing act as they attempt to fulfill their role as a good resident even after being deprived of numerous opportunities. The reason I am here able to deliver this speech is because luckily my visa has been renewed and extended, allowing me to stay in this country for a little bit longer. Whereas if someone else were in my position and had their visa denied, they would have no other option but to return back to their home country. I have been in America since I was 8 years old, learning and adjusting to the culture, mannerisms, and lifestyle of this country. And as much as I would love to call myself an American, I simply can't because of my citizenship status. If anything were to go wrong, I would simply be sent back to my home country, India, which is just as foreign to me as it would be to any other American citizen. And this is the same uncertainty that makes the future feel so unpredictable. As an immigrant teenager, there's no way to predict where I might be 5 years from now. I could either be studying engineering at some prestigious university in America, or maybe I would be back home in my home country, trying to redevelop the sense of self. But regardless of this, either ways, after waiting what seems like ages to simply receive your green card, you would then have to wait 5 more years to receive your citizenship. And I admit, I do not have a concrete solution to offer, but my intention behind this is definitely not to criticize America, but rather to bring attention to some of the struggles faced by legal immigrants and address certain questions such as, why don't you just become a citizen? There are people just like you and I living in this nation that fear to experience the little joys in their lives as it could all be taken away in an instant. This policy isn't just a policy issue, but rather a human issue. It's about hardworking, courageous, and skilled individuals who come to America with huge dreams. It's about children who are raised with peers just like them, but are told they do not belong. And it's about people who come to America but are separated from their families because of borders and policies, restricting them from being able to come in and out of the country. But most of all, it's about everyone. Immigrants play such a huge role within shaping the culture, communities, and economy of this nation. When people think of immigrants, some of the negative terms they immediately refer to are things like illegal, dangerous, or even job stealers. But in fact, they play such a huge role in the success of this country, especially within the economy sector, as they contribute to a large number of taxes each year. And while it is difficult to determine the exact number of tax that comes from them, we know that each year there is approximately almost 100 billion US dollars of tax paid by only the undocumented immigrants. So you can only imagine how much larger this number might be if you were to also add the tax that's paid by legal immigrants. So my question to you is, will this change? Will the lengthy pathways to citizenship ever become more efficient? Will people, especially those that have been raised in America their entire lives, finally be able to feel a sense of stability? Well, as per some of the recent news, there have been numerous debates over whether H-1B visas should even be continued. But again, that's not for sure. Nothing is for sure. Where will I be 10 years from now? Not sure. Where will I be going for college? Not sure. How will I pay for college? Not sure. The uncertainty of this so-called American dream has often been glamorized with opportunities and appeals to those that want a better life. But regardless of this, I do hope that I and the tens of thousands of others will finally be able to feel a sense of stability within this nation. And I hope that legal immigrants will be able to have a better future and be acknowledged for all of the hard work and everything they contribute to. We are the future of America. And even though we may not have the solutions to every single problem, we can definitely bring attention to it. With awareness comes change, and that is what I strive for. So let's hope that America, a country full of diversity and different cultures, chooses inclusion over division, talent over stereotypes, and opportunity over obstacles. Thank you.